This is Peter Lowe again, and this is the third video on the passive airflow technique. In this video we are going to talk about actually learning the technique so that it will become a real habit in your fight against stuttering. One principle to keep in mind is that this technique works best in medium stress situations and low stress situations, but it's very difficult to apply in really high stress situations. For those high stress situations you do some other things which I will talk about in my next video. But for now, this is just for medium stress. Okay, then one more thing I want to say is after you've watched this video, don't go out and try to actually apply it in real life at this stage, because you really have to learn it first. You have to do a lot of practicing. And so it requires some skill. So don't run if you can't walk. The purpose of this technique is to reduce the tension on your vocal cords. That's what it's all about. You reduce the tension on your vocal cords, and in that way you reduce the chance that they will lock and cause you to stutter. Then also keep in mind that this is not a quick fix. It's not a miracle. There are no miracles as far as speech techniques are concerned. They have their drawbacks, but they can be very helpful. Speech techniques are not a cure, they are management techniques, and you may have to use such management techniques for the rest of your life. It's really like having something like a bad back. It's something you deal with on a daily basis, and you manage it. And now, having said that, I must also say that the airflow technique has helped me enormously in many situations, to such an extent that in many areas of my speaking life I am practically fluent. Okay, so as I mentioned in my first video, the basics of the passive airflow is that you let out a very slight stream of air out of your lips before you speak. So it's not just as you speak, but before you start speaking. Don't worry too much about breathing. Your lungs and breathing will take care of itself. It's the airflow which you have to think about, because that keeps the vocal cords now nice and open. So you breathe in and let some very slight air slip out of your lips, and then you slow the first syllable of each part of speech. That's the basics. Now, tools. You need a tool to evaluate the quality of that airflow which comes out of your mouth, because it has to be a particular quality, and it has a characteristic sound. In my first video I demonstrated that particular sound, so you can just refer back to that. Regarding the tools, the easiest thing is to get a rubber tube that looks like about this. You can get it at any hardware shop. It should be of a length of about 50 to 60 centimeters and with a diameter of about 1 centimeter. And the purpose is, and this is going to look a bit funny, so don't laugh, you put one open end in your ear and the other one in front of your lips, and in that way you can hear the airflow very clearly. And so every time you are not sure if your airflow is correct, you can just use your rubber tube and listen to it. It should sound very passive and restful and not pushed. If you've got a cell phone or a mobile, as some people call it, some mobiles are very handy. They also have a nice microphone which picks up the airflow quite nicely. I have made a recording for you which I'm going to play now. Okay, I'm now going to record a few airflows. How are you? I am very well, thank you. And how are you? Also excellent, but my dog is not so well. He has an infection. Okay, those were normal airflows, and now I'm going to do it wrongly. I'm going to push the airflows, which you shouldn't do. Hello, how are you? I am now pushing my airflows, and you can hear that it sounds quite harsh and excessive. Right, so as you heard, the airflow should be evaluated by means of either the rubber tube or a cell phone. There are two big mistakes that people tend to make. The one is that you push your airflow. The other one is that you what we call we tend to preform, and that's just that as you flow out, your tongue and your speech organs should all be in a passive and restful positions. So you flow, and as you flow, don't allow your tongue or your lips to start moving or closing or whatever. As you flow out, your lips must be passive and slightly open, and don't form that next sound. You only start forming the next sound as you end the flow. So it's like this. Look at my hand. You flow, 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 and then you slow the first syllable. So you flow, 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 and then you speak. So it's not a harsh transition from flowing to speaking. It's not like and then you speak. It's a very gradual transition from flowing to speaking. Flow. My name is John, or whatever. Flow, 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 and then you start to speak. And also remember, in my first video I mentioned that there is also a mental element to the passive airflow technique, and that is the so-called intent to rest. As you flow out, you should actually try to empty your mind and not think about the next word. As you flow out, you really relax, and you try to relax in body and mind. Flow, and then you start speaking. Okay, now for the exercises. The first exercise is the so-called reading exercise. I have used a page from my own book, which is actually free on the internet available, but you can use any text, and the best is to make small groups of words, say groups of 3 to 4 or 5 words, and you mark the beginning of each word group, and you then read that text and apply the technique on at each mark where you have marked where the beginning of the new group is. So in other words, you will read this section like this: what is stuttering? And then you use the technique. It is a pattern of speech, prolongations of sounds. Use my technique. Repetitions of syllables, flow out, silent blocks. Use technique. The struggle to speak can be internal or external, noisy or silent. Okay, so you do this for about 10 minutes every day, and you also need to record about 1 minute of each exercise so that you can evaluate your passive airflows for passiveness and also for slowing that first syllable. It's important to evaluate because it's very easy to get into wrong airflow habits, and if you do that, you'll just waste your time and get into bad airflow habits which won't solve your stuttering problem. So you do this reading exercise until you've really mastered reading, and then you go and you if you've managed reading, then you can go on to more difficult exercises. But you can also actually start doing a second exercise at this stage while still continuing with reading also, and that's called the description exercise. It's really very simple. It's where you make short sentences as you sit down comfortably in your chair. You sit and you describe things. You describe what you see. You see books, you see a chair, you see furniture. What I used to do is I sat in my lounge and I watched TV with the noise, with the sound off, so that I could describe what I saw on the screen. That gives you some material to talk about. And at the beginning of each sentence you use your technique, and of course you slow down your first syllable. There are other practices, exercises which you can also do to relieve the monotony and make it more interesting. I don't have time to go into that, but you can check out the chapter in my online book. I'll give the address in my last slide. I think I've reached the end of my time here, so I thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope to see you again in my 4th video. Thank you very much, and all the best with your speech.